You did everything right. You hit your calorie target every single day. You didn't cheat on the diet. You didn't skip a single workout. But when you step on the scale, the number drops, and when you look in the mirror, something still feels off. You're lighter. You're not tighter. Here is the part nobody warns you about. Two people can eat the exact same calories and follow the exact same diet, and one of them will lose 55% less fat than the other. What flips the body's internal switch from burning pure belly fat to burning away your hard-earned muscle instead? The answer has nothing to do with what you eat. It has to do with how you recover. We're told weight loss is just a spreadsheet: calories in, calories out. Millions of people believe that if the math checks out, the fat will simply melt away. But calories in, calories out only dictates the total weight you lose. A hidden variable decides exactly what kind of weight that is. Researchers at the University of Chicago tested this directly. They took 10 overweight adults, put them on an identical, carefully measured reduced-calorie diet, and locked them into a clinical research center for 2 weeks twice. In one 12-week block, each person slept 8.5 hours a night. In the other, the same person, the same food, but only 5.5 hours of sleep. Same deficit, same meals down to the gram. The only variable that changed was sleep. On the well-studied weeks, more than half of the weight they lost was pure fat. On the sleep-restricted weeks, only a quarter was fat, the rest was muscle. Same scale number, completely different body underneath it. When sleep is restricted, your body panics and dramatically alters its fuel partitioning. It doesn't read a calorie deficit as progress, it reads it as a threat. To survive that perceived threat, it locks away your fat reserves for later and aggressively drains your metabolically active lean tissue instead. Because muscle is faster and easier for your body to break down for emergency fuel. This survival response is driven by a tug-of-war between two powerful hormones: ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and leptin, the satiety hormone that tells your brain you've had enough. When you're sleep-deprived, leptin crashes and ghrelin spikes. That shift sends your brain's reward center into overdrive, specifically seeking out calorie-dense carbohydrates. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not a personal failure. It's a physiological mandate written by your own hormones. In a 2022 clinical trial out of the University of Chicago, researchers didn't ask anyone to diet, they just helped participants sleep 1.2 hours more per night. Without changing a single meal on purpose, those participants spontaneously ate 270 fewer calories a day. But the damage doesn't stop at cravings. Chronic sleep deprivation causes peripheral insulin resistance, and this is where it gets sneaky, because you can be doing everything right at the table and still lose the fight. Here's what's actually happening inside your cells. Normally, when you eat, insulin acts like a key, unlocking your muscle cells so glucose can flow in and get used for energy or repair. When you're sleep-deprived, cortisol runs elevated overnight, pushing your liver to dump extra glucose into your bloodstream even while you're fasting. Your cells are already flooded before you've eaten a single bite. By the time your actual meal arrives, your muscle cells have essentially stopped listening to the insulin key. Even a perfectly portioned, high-protein meal can't get where it needs to go. As we age past our 30s and 40s, our baseline insulin sensitivity naturally declines on its own. Throw chronic sleep deprivation into that midlife metabolic environment, and your system goes into lockdown from two directions at once. Blood glucose stays elevated for longer, and your body is forced to prioritize fat storage over fat burning right at the exact life stage when most people are trying hardest to lose it. Hitting 7.5 to 8. 5 hours of sleep maximizes fat oxidation. It naturally controls your cravings, acting like an invisible shield of willpower you didn't have to build yourself. But flip that around: if you try to diet while chronically exhausted, you face up to a 60% increase in the loss of lean muscle mass. And that loss compounds. Losing muscle accelerates agerelated sarcopenia, which slows down your resting metabolic rate, meaning your body burns less energy just existing. You're not just stalling your current diet. You're making every future diet biologically harder. So should you treat sleep as a metabolic intervention? Absolutely. It deserves the same seriousness as your protein targets or your meal prep plan. If you're trying to preserve muscle, or you keep fighting late-night emotional binge eating, fixing your sleep is the first lever to pull. there is one major exception, and it matters. If you suffer from chronic clinical insomnia, do not obsess over these fat loss sleep metrics. Counting hours, checking your wearable ring the second you wake up, punishing yourself for a bad score, that pressure can trigger something called orthosomnia, an anxiety around sleep data that makes actual sleep worse. If that's you, the fat loss numbers in this video aren't your starting point. The starting point is treating the root cause, typically with cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Once that foundation is stable, everything you just heard about fat loss becomes relevant again. Sleep isn't a break from your diet. It is the most highly anabolic, fat-burning phase of your entire day, a phase most people are quietly sabotaging without realizing it. And sleep isn't even the whole picture. Stress runs on its own hormonal clock, and there's growing evidence it can push your body to store belly fat through a completely separate pathway, one most people never think to look at. For now, the lesson stands on its own. The number on the scale was never lying to you. It just wasn't telling you the whole story.